regarding the leaked information from the Supreme Court. Many of the thoughts, I just want to give you a couple thoughts of what my thoughts were, and pretty much you could like write me in the comments what you think. But for the most part, though, let's start off with the beginning. I am pro-life. I believe that it's that when that the life begins at conception, according to scriptures, according to science. That how when you start off with a person begins when the sperm and the egg meet together. A unique life form has now been made, and that unique life form is a baby human. And so, pretty much what I'm saying is that I think that based upon like science and based upon how everything else is, you have lizards, horses, and all these other creatures. What happens is that when you have this situation, I'm come to understand, what I come to believe, is that that's a life, and unborn life is that of a let's see, that of a baby, and the baby's life is that of of great importance. Now, I don't want to talk forever regarding everything, but I'll just tell you what my thoughts were regarding this stuff here. It's interesting how things leak in terms of stories get leaked in the news. Every time we get given any kind of information, any kind of type of situation or scenario, what ends up happening is that we are faced with some kind of a thing where they tell us one thing, and they're pretty much doing a misdirection for us, right? So the fact that they leak this information means they want to pursue something else more, much bigger. Now that's just a really big thing. This whole overturning Roe versus Wade, and the fact that somebody was willing to go ahead and to do that, to leak this information to where people are going to have to make a decision about what's going on. That's something there that I look at that and I say, okay, there's always something bigger at stake, bigger in play. Anyway, so what I'm thinking is that they did this on to get a ball rolling in a different direction, and those who leaked it, the person who leaked it, information was on purpose just to kind of like get us distracted somehow. There's a lot of distractions in the news, and a lot of things going on. You have the whole thing with Ukraine. You have things with different variants and all that coming back and things like that. And so you have a lot of things to keep us constantly being on our always at edge, always in anxiety type situation. So what happens is this, right? One thing I find just interesting about life is that, as always, there's always a distraction. So to go back to the point of the story, according to what happens is that the leaked information is that from someone inside the courtroom in the confidence of the judges, they were talking amongst themselves, and somebody leaked information to where others can see it. So by doing that, it's kind of like jumping the gun. So people know that this is going to happen, that the situation is going to occur. So then today, all day was people were protesting and things like that. So we didn't see any well, I mean, there's protests in Manhattan, but we live in Queens, so we didn't know sure exactly what happened because we didn't pay any mind. We're just really happy just to hear about the news that there's a possibility that this might overturn. Now, the reason why this is important to most Christians and to me as a Christian is that because it's like what happens is that it's a person's life. If you if any society can judge and determine that the person has no value, then they can do that to every one of us. If they go from the smallest of persons to the biggest of persons, like it's like in the Horton Hears a Who, a person's a person no matter no matter how small. So a person's a person. So if you're gonna disregard the value of one human life, you're gonna disregard the value of all human life. And so how it plays out is that if you look at how a person's valued in terms of like a baby, if a baby is valued, you can't kill a baby that's 1 year old or 1 day after they're born. But if the baby is still in the womb, 1 day before they're born, and you kill that baby, they use different terms to try and muddy the water. They try and deceive us with words. We watched this movie once, and they said that you didn't do exactly what I said, but you just tried to deceive me with words. And so deceiving a person with words is pretty much one of those things where you use concepts and things, but it's very clear to see. Everybody knows that what's growing inside of a woman is a baby. That if even if a case where if a person assaults another person or assaults a woman who has a baby, was pregnant, and the baby dies, and the woman gets, that's two counts of manslaughter, right? Two counts of manslaughter, two counts of homicide. So the thing is, we know that's a baby inside, but what they do is that they try and take away the pain of it all, the negativity of the situation. And so what happens is let's say, for example, most people when they do abortion, or they choose to do an abortion, is because they were they didn't use any contraception, they didn't consider a condom or anything like that to stop the flow of from the semen of from the sperm to the egg. And so what happens is that they go ahead and they live out the consequence, and all of a sudden they have a baby, and now the baby is now forming. A baby is formed. It's starting to form, and it's beginning to multiply, and the baby cell is multiplying and everything like that. And so what happens is left to itself, the baby will form in 9 months, become fully formed human being. You talked about when I was in high school, I had an opportunity to talk about some things. They were talking about this thing, bring some controversial things that are in the news. Bring some controversial things to talk about. And one of mine, I brought mine about the pro-life, pro-choice debate. And so the thing is, like, what it comes down to, it's like, you have a choice to do whatever you're gonna do. You have a choice to choose for a relationship. You have a choice to pursue the other person, the opposite sex. You have a choice to do that. But when a baby comes into life, it's like, it's like, why would do you think there's a choice to actually end another person's life? That unless you try and devalue or demoralize what that baby is and turn that baby into an object as opposed to, you know, a valuable human being. So this is what so the argument was always that they say it's my body, my choice, and so it's like, if you know that somebody else is going to be coming through your body, like you have a situation with Mary, and you have Mary and have Jesus, and she decided, they're gonna stay here and they're gonna kill all the firstborn. They're gonna stay here and they're gonna kill all the people who are pregnant. What happens is that you might have killed the Lord, before he was born, like in the case of Mary, and so what happened was Mary was able to bring Jesus to term, and he's the savior of the world. So you have the thing where there are people. As a matter of fact, we have this thought that we believe that some of the struggles that we're facing today in this world, in this day and age, is because there are less people on the earth to fulfill different roles and to bring different inventions. There are certain inventions. Maybe you would have find the cure to world hunger. The person who was supposed to find the cure to world hunger was supposed to be born like last year, and because they were killing people, killing babies, and then abortion, that person is not to be born. There was the movie had a concept like that. It says, about the billions that'll come from a person. So there's millions and millions of people, generations that'll follow that are going to be wiped out because of this opportunity, this thing here of abortion. We watched the Unplanned movie, and the Unplanned movie, she was all gung ho about the fact that she was, helping Planned Parenthood to do what they do. And Planned Parenthood has origins in eugenics. And eugenics, if you go back, I mean, it's weird. Like, it's talking different languages now, but how people talk. You look at the situation, and it's like, the whole thing about eugenics is they want to get rid of inferior races. And many times you find these abortion clinics are in black neighborhoods. As a matter of fact, they say one of the highest number of abortions, there's more black people being aborted than being born. So you have a situation where in America, where we have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you have people are being killed because they see it's by a choice, and generations that are to follow, they're going to bring benefits to this world. Like, even Elon Musk said that. He says, there's a thing where, the people that come in to this world, the more people you have, the more innovations come with it. It's almost like when we were having our children, my wife and I were having our kids, our 4 kids. We every single time we had a child, somebody said, you know what? And they said this was interesting. So every child comes with a loaf of bread, and so they come with a blessing. Every child comes with a blessing, and that's what makes it awesome because every time a person comes in this world, they bring something, bring a value. Now we've been fed to us in school is that school shows us how there's almost as if we're valueless. We have no value and things like that. I mean, because they put us through a system and they try and train us the same way. But as you grow through life, as you have children, as you see different things, you begin to see that people learn differently. People have different ways of learning, and people have different ways of understanding things, and people have different ways of of making sense of stuff. That if you try your best to just teach everybody the same exact way, it's not the same. So you kind of learn that. You learn about how homeschooling kind of opens up a door for people to learn different ways. So when it comes back to this thing here, the whole thing about them leaking information, what has happened is that by them leaking information, it's one of two things. It's one, it was an accident, or two, was on purpose to get us distracted. And to get us distracted to, pretty much, to turn each other again. Because if you really think about it, this doesn't affect anything. Like, a thing with that Disney I was talking about the other day. I wrote this too. I was talking to Mason Lucas. I wrote in his page. I said that, the thing that happened with Disney doesn't really stop their freedom of speech. They can still talk and say whatever they want. Disney can say whatever they want. The people on board can say whatever they want. It doesn't stop them. A provision that they had has been removed from them. So the thing is, in a situation like this, if a person wants to have an abortion, there's other states they can go to. There are states they can go to because it was always going back to that of the states. According to the Constitution is not supposed to rule on matters of things like this. It's not supposed to rule on healthcare. They're not supposed to rule on let's see, what's it, the EPA, the let's see, what, CIA, the FBI, the what else? There's a whole list of things that they're not supposed to do. As a matter of fact, we were going through a constitutional classes, and as we're going through it, we're learning all about the different things regarding the Constitution. What Constitution was designed to limit the government, right? And the government's limitations on doing certain things. For example, making things that are whether or not, see, if the thing is life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, you have to say that everybody has value. Every person has value. So the example was given before about, like, let's say, for example, you have why we're not a democracy and why we are a constitutional republic is that we are a place ruled by laws. We have laws that protect the individual, and the individual has a right to living, right? So if you have a situation where somebody is a horse thief, let's say for example, back in the story they give, horse thief. So you have um, these 20 people says that this one guy is a horse thief, right? And so what happens is like according to democracy says that the 10 people or the 20 people against this one person, or so 20 against this one person, will say that this person is deserving of death. He stole horses, and that's what democracy. Democracy is majority rule. But in a situation where it comes to like a crime that's committed, you have to have it unanimous. You have to be like, okay, either he's 100% wrong, everybody has to agree, or and even has to show evidence to prove it. So you have to have the law protects the individual right. That's why there's a trial by jury, habeas corpus. Why we have the right to jury, right to trial by jury, and so that's why everybody has a chance to defend themselves in court. What has happened is like in every situation, how it seems is like when a police officer comes to your house, they have to have a warrant to come to your house or a probable cause. Now they can't just come into your house or search in the house. That's against the Fourth Amendment. You can't have it where people just kind of just do whatever they want. Everybody has to have court orders to do this because we are people of laws, right? So, for example, them ruling on this whole thing of Roe versus Wade, the whole start of it was also was madness. It didn't come out the way it's supposed to be. For example, madness being it was, and people always talk about my body, my choice, and if you don't have a uterus, you can't really say anything on behalf of a baby. But it was 7 men who put this together, and the whole thing was fraudulent in terms of Roe versus Wade because there was no baby in question that to be the whole thing about abortion. There was no baby to be in question because it was all a fraud case. So if you look back to the beginning of it, it's not even a real situation that they used to prove a thing that's the thing. Yes, there have been abortions and things going on like that, and abortions people have done it. It was rare and few, and it was quote unquote safe. But the bottom line is that now it's like, you had a thing with Gosnell and different people, and you had them, and what happens is like when you go through the situation of these people and what they're doing, you eventually come to a situation where as you go through this, you begin to see that there are ways people actually make laws into power. And as one, for example, the Supreme Court's not even supposed to make laws. It's like, hi, and so the Supreme Court's not even supposed to make any laws. They can't do that according to the Constitution. The only person that can only entity of the government that can make law is and the Congress and the House of Representatives, which is considered the Congress. So when you have a situation where you know, the president can't make laws, right? So when the president does his executive order, that's against the Constitution. He's not supposed to. He doesn't have the power to do that. It's kind of like the way they're doing things. They're giving people power that they don't have. It's called enumerated in the Constitution. So, for example, you have certain laws and certain things you can do, but when you cannot write a law. All laws are designated. Had to be, according to the Constitution. I don't have one in front of me right now, but it says all laws are to be made, all of them. That means there's none for the Constitution, none for the executive branch, none for the Supreme Court to make any laws. They don't make laws. They're supposed to interpret laws and give it back to Congress. Right? Congress is the one that makes laws. So whenever you have a situation that a law is being made, that's that it's only supposed to come from the Congress. So you have the scenario where it's like in this case, the whole beginning of it is made on fraud, and then the continuation of it is made on fraud, and it's like think about if they were to overturn this thing, it'd be an interesting thing because what happens is like you have the scenario where all the lives of people have been the people who have no lives, but the people who have died by the hand of abortionists and by the hand of the surgery that's been done to remove the baby from the womb, from the uterus. What happens is that you have it where these poor people died because the law was not in their favor, and that's kind of like how it was in terms of like with slavery. Slavery law wasn't in our favor, so people were allowed to hold people as slaves because they didn't value the individual human life. So when you have the value of the human individual life is sustained and upheld, what happens is that you have a blessing because now you have the fact where somebody's gonna come into this world that could change the world, make the world better, But what happens is like there's so many things with laws and the people who we put into power, they are becoming oligarchs. They're becoming people who are just ruling from their, like for example, Congress is ruling not from the benefit of people. They're doing their own thing in regards to like they're just kind of saying they'll do one thing and then they'll go ahead and they pick another thing. So they say, well, you elect us to be officials for this thing, but what ends up happening is that they go ahead and they do whatever they want. Like during the pandemic, you have it where they were telling us what we cannot do. We can't go out, and there they are going out doing these things because they don't value our lives; they value their own life. And what we were doing a study yesterday on the Constitution, and we talked about the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve is a very interesting thing. I mean, if you get a chance to look up the Federal Reserve, but the bottom line is that these people do not care about money. Money is nothing to them. It's not about money anyway. It's always been about power and about influence. And so, if you can See, the thing is, like, they're not gonna wipe everybody out, right? They need people to work the machines and work the stuff and keep it running because you can't have everybody not working. But what you do have is a scenario where it's like, you know what? As long as you keep people in the dark, you can keep them in check. If you say the floor is lava and you know the floor is not lava, you're gonna walk on the floor saying that it's not lava. You understand? You'll say, tell them that you have special boots on it. You can walk on the floor. It's not lava until you check it. And so what happens, like, the thing is, in regards to what we were saying before, just kind of go back, my whole purpose and my goal was to explain my view of this. My view is that the value of individual life is important. When a person commits a crime, they have opportunity to prove their freedom. And in everything is beginning to see that there's a lot of corruption in every aspect of life. You see corruption in our politics, you see corruption in our medical industry, you see corruption in our education system, you see corruption in our religious institutions, you see corruption in our money, you see corruption in our foreign affairs, you see corruption even like on television, you see corruption in our school systems, you see corruption like pretty much everywhere, in our food and our health. And the only thing is, God, Lord God, give me wisdom, help me to see beyond the corruption. Lord Jesus, open my eyes and help me to see. Because what happens is that there are so many things in this world that's designed to keep us from seeing God's truth and seeing what He wants us to do. And ultimately, it all comes down to distractions. All these things, many things we come face to face with are distractions. What they are so good with distractions. Now they're talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, distractions. Talking about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, distractions. These things are distracting us from the real thing. That they are taking our power away from us as individuals, as sovereign people who live in a land that was given to us, given to us with a constitution. Right, that we got this land with a constitution. The constitution is to limit the power of government. The constitution is to limit the power of government, so the government can't just walk in and take what you have. Because what ends up happening, if you have a thing with anarchy, even anarchy has a government system. There is the monarchy on one side, the monarchy where the king rules, but the king doesn't rule by himself. The king has people that rule with him. So it's always an oligarchy, a group of the elite that rules, a few that rules. Then you have on the other side anarchy, and in the middle people talk about democracy. And we are not a democracy. Democracy is about the majority rule. It means 51% rules the 49%. And so what happens, that's never good. So we are a system of laws. We have laws and things there to help us and to make sure that what things are doing are fair and fair for everyone as best as possible. That's why they really struggled with it before the Articles of Confederation and why they hadn't had the power to do so, but now the Constitution has more power to do so. But some of the things, for example, we are not to be involved in, according to the Constitution, not to be involved in foreign affairs. We are not to be given any foreign aids out there. We are to protect the general wealth, common good and general welfare, right? And so what happens? They're supposed to protect us from other countries, but not by giving money out to them. We're not supposed to be giving foreign aid out. That's against the Constitution. We're not. And they say judges don't have life. They don't have a life appointment. Their appointment is only until bad behavior occurs. Right, so I just wanted to kind of just say a couple things. I didn't want to talk forever, but I just wanted to give you guys my point of view. My point of view on the whole thing was, just to sum it up, was I value individual life. One life is important. All lives are important because, if you do something to the smallest of us, you do something to the greatest of us. And then the next thing too, that if this is pretty much could be a distraction that they have to set apart to keep us from understanding that our rights are being stripped from us every single day in every single way. And taxation is theft. That's another thing too. I didn't mention that at all, but just want to say that taxation is theft. And so, really, just want to say thank you so much for listening. I wish you all the best. God bless you. And next time I do another video, I'm probably going to do like another build something. So I'll build something and show you how I'm building something and making things. But for the most part, I want to say God bless you. And thank you for listening. And I'll just make it short and sweet, under 20 minutes. So thank you and God bless. All right, bye.